An exploratory journey in space takes place on Earth after it has become uninhabitable. Imagine that you want to leave and move on from the planet because it is uninhabitable anymore. And after you found your new planet, suddenly, while you're on a journey from it to another planet, you find yourself falling into your old planet again. In this time, you have to think, what the hell you have done in your life? And that's exactly what happened to the protagonists of the movie, After Earth, one of the top science fiction, adventure, and thriller films released in 2013. It begins with a man trying to awake his son, who is wearing a seatbelt and mask on his face to breathe. And then we see the son who is completely unconscious and lying on the ground in a jungle. Then we see the narrator telling the viewer that because of the many disasters and problems that happen on Earth, people had to leave and go somewhere else. With time, we discovered a new planet suitable for living there, but we have to transport humans. And for this reason, we picked 1,000 guards among the people who can help transporting humans to the new planet. But the problem is that we found that we were not alone, and there were other creatures wants to kill us and sent us their own soldiers. We have found after that this creature smells the fear. We knew about this matter when we met one of the main guards who walked among these creatures without them seeing him, and we knew in this moment that his soul was free of any fear, and we called this phenomenon the phenomenon of invisibility. Then we see the boy sleeping in the jungle again, and then we move to the new planet and the trainees. We see Kitai, son of Cypher, training with them, pushing himself harder and beats all the runners, while his friend tells him, "This is not an Olympics. Take it easy. This is just training." But he doesn't give him attention, and then they gather at their teacher, who tells them, "Good job, guys, especially you, Kitai. Follow me to the class I want you." After they enter the class, he says, "Your performance is excellent in school, but not that good in training. So I can't promote to become a guard next year," Kitai replied. "But I have done everything I could, and my performance is insanely good. Please, my father is coming and I want to celebrate this event with him." The teacher told him to say hello to his father and welcome back, and get out of here. "I am starting to have a headache." Afterwards, the father came back giving them a very harsh handshake, and then they sit down to eat. Kitai said to his father that he didn't promote to become a guard. "It's okay, your teacher is good and knows what's good for you," his father said. Kitai gets annoyed and says, "I am not hungry." The father replies, "Sit down and finish eating." After that, Cypher came up to his wife with a necklace and told her that he is going to work with her and quit his job after tomorrow's mission. She was pleasantly surprised, and she said, "I want you to make up for Kitai. He thinks that he is the reason for what happened to his sister. He needs a father, not a military commander." After these words, the father went to his and told him that he will come with him tomorrow's mission. The boy becomes happy. The next day, we see everyone is getting ready at the airport. Thaya says thank you to her husband. Yesterday's decision was very wise, and then she tells her son to take care and says goodbye. Thereafter, we see soldiers coming, and among them there is a one-legged soldier who thanks Cypher in front of everyone for saving his life, and Cypher says, "You don't have to," while the man gets up and gives him a military salute and Cypher helps him to get back in his seat. Then we see a group of guards monitoring something enters the ship until it's locked up, and the journey begins. Cypher tells his son that the journey is going to take 7 hours to get to the training place. "I am going to sleep a couple of hours, and you should do the same." After Cypher falls asleep, Kitai gets up to check the place, and especially that something which the guards were watching, he keeps walking until he finds a sign that says, "No trespassing." His curiosity made him to continue on his way until someone stopped him and said, "Are you blind or what? Didn't you see the sign?" The other guard said, "Take it easy, he's just a boy." The guard said, "Do you want to meet the alien? Try it. But keep in mind that he smells the fear. Your skin's pores open up and release a substance that he smells, and the closer you fet from him, the more fearful you are, the stronger he will smell it." Kitai started to remember what happened in the past, when the aliens attacked his house and his sister told him, "Stay here and nothing is going to happen to you." And he gets closer while he is closing his eyes. Then his father wakes up not finding Kitai besides him. During this, Kitai gets closer to the alien, and the alien moves when he smells his fear and quickly goes back to Laura. Cypher arrived in this moment and tells his son to get out and tells the guards to activate the full alert. After that, he come out and tells his son there's a life jacket behind the chair. "Put it on and fasten your seatbelt." And Kitai follows his orders quickly. Then Cypher goes to the cockpit and tell them there's a meteor storm from the 4th level is coming for us. They said no way the weather is fine. He said, "I hope I'm wrong." They replied, "You have never been wrong." He said with humble, "I make a lot of mistakes, and my wife knows this." Unfortunately, he didn't complete his statement, and a very hard meteor storm were in front of them, and he screamed, "Move, get out of here." They said we could make a wormhole in these conditions. After a while, they got a couple of hits that could have blown up the ship. He told them this is a command, move us out of here. There is a wormhole there and pointed with his finger, and they did move to a quieter place. Then he tells them to go somewhere else. They say, if we move this ship one more time, it's going to be crumbling salad. He says, well, we will land on that planet over there. They said it's a quarantine-class planet, so we can't enter it. He said, just do it. There's no option left for us. As soon as they enter the planet's atmosphere, the engines stopped working, and the ship crashes. Cypher is suddenly pulled out. Everyone else in the plane starts to pull out, and Kitai lost his consciousness from the shock. After seconds, Kitai returns to his consciousness, gets up and starts moving cautiously around to see if he can find anything alive. He finds the door opening and closing because someone is lying on the side of the door and stuck in it. So he lifts him up. Then, he starts to look out for his father and finds him lying injured on the ground. Then he moves him and wakes him up. The father says, go upstairs and you will find a device. Looks like a mirror in the cockpit. Kitai finds the device and gives it to his father. Cypher finds it broken and says, this is the distress device that we were going to ask for help into space. There's one like it in the tail of the ship. He says the tail is 100 kilometers away from us. I broke my leg, and the other is bad. I can't do anything. You have to get this device and come back, because if you doesn't find it, you and me will die. Repeat after me. You and me will what? He said die. First of all, take this. This is a bag with breathing fluids. Your lungs will absorb them, and they will protect it. They will improve your breathing levels. This is my sword, versatile for desserts, baked food, and is armed with 26 weapons. Do you know where we are? We are on Earth. Earth is Class 1 Forbidden Planet. Your strategy is to run and escape always. Kitai says, what about the alien? He says there are 3 possibilities. The first is that he fell and died, which is the most likely what happened. The second is that he fell and got injured. The last is that he escaped and still alive. Don't worry, you have a camera in your suit. I can see everything with you and guide you. And you have a microphone and a headset. Keep in mind that this planet is freezing, but there is a lot of warm spots to land on. I will guide you to them. Then the kid hugged him. Then we see Kitai climbing up a rocky mountain to begin his journey, and halfway up, he finds a big spider, so he panics. His father wasn't looking when he heard Kitai panics. He says, what happened? Kitai replied nothing. His father said, answer me. What happened? Kitai said, I saw a spider and slipped, but don't worry. After that, Cypher commands the ship to launch the small autopilots to scan the place, to see if there's any danger and the main purpose to find any trace for the alien. Kitai finally reaches the top of the mountain. His father tells him, when I say go to any place, follow my words, it will be the warm place which you will hide in it. Cypher scans his body, and he finds that he has a broken bones and ruptured vein in his leg. And he knew from the device that he can't treat himself, so he took a painkiller labeled with a warning that it may cause the person to fall into a deep sleep. Afterwards, the father returns with a flashback to his daughter. She is saying to him that she found a real book from the old days and decided to add it to the museum called Moby Dick. It's the story of a famous whale that was trying to kill some sailors. If you want us to make a video about the movie, just let us know in the comments. It's a pretty good movie too. He tells her that whales used to live on Earth and we used to kill them for their oil, but they died with the rest of us. Then we see him coming back to reality, and he is in front of the painkiller and his son is trying to call him. He says, I'm with you. What happened? He says, nothing. I'm just telling you that I'm walking in the middle of the jungle. Then his father says, I see something moving toward you, and it's approaching from the west. Be careful. And he stands there until he sees a monkey in front of him. Cypher says, calm down and run. But Kitai loses control and tries to frighten the monkey until he finds a group of monkeys gathered around him. He starts running away from them under the guidance of his father, knowing that if they catch him, they will kill him. Then Cypher says that there is a river 250 meters away from you, and he continues to run with a scared face like a 10-year-old boy. Kitai reaches the river, and as soon as he jumps in the river, the monkeys move away from him, and he continues to swim across the river. His father tries to calm him down and tell him that there's nothing running behind him anymore. But the boy continues to run until he stands up, pulls the sword out and looks around while he's dizzy, and his father keeps repeating, calm down. Then he notices that his son's vitals have suddenly decreased. He says, did you get hurt or what? Kitai says, I don't know. He says, do a self-examination quickly. And the boy begins to examine himself until he finds a stained rash on his hand. His father says, that's a poisonous parasite. Get it away from you and get the medicine bag. He says, I can't move. What should I do? He said, take the first dose directly into your heart, quickly, then inject yourself with the second dose. He said, I can't move. I can't see. I can't control my hands. Help me. And his face started to swell. The father said, put the dose on the floor and lie down on it. And he did so. The father says, you are going to sleep for a while because you are very exhausted. After a couple of hours, his father wakes him up and says, you have to get up and blink your eyes because the place will freeze and it will be terrible. Kitai tells his father what happened was very hard on him. His father says, I know, but it's nothing more than that. Then the father goes into surgery to try to get the vein to the normal function and repair the ruptured area with the help of a computer. Then the father has another flashback to the time when his daughter is celebrating her birthday and he's on a mission among the officers. And she says, "Blow out the candles." He says, "How can you do that when I am talking to you remotely?" She says, "Try it." He says, "No way, it doesn't make sense." She says, "You won't lose anything." He blows out the candles, finding out that Katai is behind the camera and they're joking with him. After he wakes up, Katai is also awake, and the father says, "Hey, you are 5 kilometers away from the next warm spot. I want you to reach it in 50 minutes. After some running, he says, "I did it in an hour and 50 minutes. What do I do now?" He says, "Take the breathing fluid now." He opens the bag and finds 2 broken ones. He says, "How many more do you have?" He says, 4. But when he says it, his indicators show that he's not saying the truth. And then we know that his father suspects that he is lying, and he knows that his father will expose him. So he stands his ground and repeats the answer. At night, it's freezing all over except the warm spot that he is in it. After some moment of silence, Kitai asked his father, "How did you manage to be invisible when you were fighting the alien?" He said, "I was fighting the alien. And suddenly, he was on top of me and took me underwater. He was very heavy, putting his hand on my shoulder and didn't want to let go. I knew then that he wanted to drown me. Suddenly, I calmed down and decided that I didn't want his hand on my shoulder anymore because it hurt, and I knew that's what would make them not see me. Focus on what's happening now. Don't let the future to disturb you. Fear comes from thinking about the future, and generally fear is not a real feeling. Danger is the real feeling, but fear is not." And then, the boy fall asleep during his father's speech. Because he was tired, the father was also trying to rest. Then, when he woke up in the morning, Cypher said, "Hey, freezing time is over. You have 14 kilometers to go to the waterfall, which is halfway there." Halfway down the road, he sees a severed hand on the ground and realizes it's the hand of one of the monkeys that was chasing him. And when his father sees it, the drones he sent out give him a signal. It shows him a mountain of bodies of the monkeys that were chasing Kidai and says that there is a high percentage of aliens' presence here. He then tells his son to run towards the waterfall as fast as he can, and he does so until he reaches a huge tree at the end of the waterfall. Then his father looks on the pathies and realizes that the ground path is dangerous and it will take time to avoid the danger and it will cost more air. He says, "How many breathing fluid cans do you have?" He says, 4. Then his dad says, "Show me the bag." When he finds that he has 2 only, the computer says, "It's a long shot unless you fly. He needs at least 2.5 cans of air." Then he says, "Return to the ship. The mission is cancelled." He says, "What?" He says, "Return to the ship. That's an order." But then Katai thinks back to the time when aliens attacked their home and he and his sister were together. And his sister took him to a place where they didn't smell fear and told him to stay there and he wouldn't get hurt. He stayed and the alien grabbed her and she kept screaming for her father. Then the alien killed her. Then his father says that the mission has reached the point of cancellation. He says, "No, I can go back and get to the tail of ship with 2 cans only. Why don't you trust me? You think I'm scared or what? You always think I'm a coward because I didn't get out that day. She told me not to get out, no matter what. What was I supposed to do? You're the coward here. She kept shouting your name before she died, but you weren't there as always. I will complete what I have started." He goes on with the plan and jumps to fly with his suit. Then, in the middle of the air, he finds himself being chased by a huge eagle and tries to run away from it, but the eagle very fast. His father tries to guide him to get away from the eagle and he goes into the waterfall to get away from it, but he finds that the eagle tricked him and went from the other way. And at that moment, the camera breaks. All communication between father and son is cut off, and Katai finds himself in the middle of the eagle's nest with some young eagles. He quickly realizes that the eagle has brought him as a food for the young eagles in the nest and is going to eat him at night. He looks around and finds himself on top of a huge tree with cheetahs coming at them. He starts beating the cheetahs so that they don't eat the young eagles, but they were too many. He and the eagle are trying to do what they can do to protect them. After they finish, he finds that all the little birds are dead. He comes down from the tree and the eagle is crying. On the other hand, his father has seen a signal that there are aliens in the area and started to worry because he doesn't know where his son is. Kitai tried to call his father and apologize, but he found that the connection between him and his father was cut off because the bracelet on his hand broke, and then he started to move, and he entered one of the caves, and he lit a fire to warm up and began to plan what he would do, and where he would go, and where he was supposed to be. Then he decides to go out and he finds the eagle that was chasing him is still flying above him and doesn't know what he wants from him. Afterward, he goes on his way and builds himself a boat to go on the river, and as soon as he gets on it and the boat starts moving, he says he's going to sleep for a couple of hours and rest, and he does. And then his sister comes and says, "Don't worry, you did the right thing and didn't have to go out." And then she says, "Are you scared?" He says, "No, I'm just tired." Then he kept talking to her, but she was trying to wake him up and he wouldn't shut up until he woke up and found himself in the river. He started running, but unfortunately, the world began to freeze and he couldn't find the warm spots because he couldn't communicate with his father. He starts to freeze and falls down from fatigue and coldness, and when he faints, someone pulls him up and he wakes up in a dark place. Then he realizes that he is covered with leaves and wood and has a blanket over him, and when he comes out, he finds the eagle sleeping on him, protecting him from the cold and thanking him for what he done. Sadly, he realizes that the eagle died of the cold while he was protecting him and sacrificed himself for him, just as he sacrificed himself for the eagle's children. Then he continues on his way and finds the ship tail in his face, and he is over the moon that he was able to arrive. He goes to check the place, and the first thing he does is searching for the distress call device. Thankfully, he finds it and tries to open it, but it doesn't connect to a network. And then he takes some of the breathing fluid in the spaceship, gets a proper communication device, and calls his father to say that he has arrived. At the same time, his father, who had failed the vein surgery, he is trying to stand up, coming to check up on him and saying that the device was not working. He says, "It's because the smoke and the barrier above you is causing electrical interference and the signal can't get through." Then he says, "Do you see that mountain over there?" Kitai replies, "It's a volcano." He says, "You have to get to the top of it and send the signal to the space." Kitai goes to the alien place on ship and finds that the alien is not there. He tells his father that it escaped. He says, "I know, but you have to drag him towards you and stick him in the rocks." Kitai got scared, and in that time his father told him, "Now the alien knows your place." Then he starts to run towards the volcano, and the alien is behind him. This is the first time Kitai has seen something like this. He tries to run between the rocks, but the alien is so strong that it breaks them. And finally, Kitai gets into a narrow space and tries to get out. He is surprised to find that the alien manages to get into the narrow space and is very close to him, but he has to continue on his way to save himself and his father, so he keeps ascending and tries to turn on the distress call device, but he can do it in time and the alien keeps running after him. By this time, his father is having hallucinations and feels that this is the end of his life, and it's better to die before he sees his son dying as a fresh meat. The alien hits Kitai with his hand, but Kitai strangely falls asleep thinking about his sister's death, and she calms him down and reminds him that he needs to lose the fear feeling that he has. He wakes up finding that he is no longer afraid, and the alien is moving around him and he doesn't see him at all. He cuts one of alien hands off and starts to fight with him in an intense battle. He is fighting hard like he is used to fight them all day and night, and then after he's sure the alien is dead, he runs to the distress device and sends out a distress call that spreads out into space. Then we see people coming, wearing insulated suits, rescuing the father and son. And then one of them was looking at the camera records in his suit and couldn't believe that he killed the alien at this age. Then he goes to check on his father, who, thankfully, was able to heal and get his leg back. However, Cypher asks them to let him go, and when that happens, he gives his son a military salute, and then his son hugs him and says that he wants to work with his mother as well. Finally, they return from Earth amidst the whales until they reach space again, and our movie ends. If you want the part 2 of the movie to be summarized, press like or let us know in the comments, and when we reach 7,000 likes, we will do it.